we're gonna have to see.
Man, those
Um,
graphical errors, man. Sometimes those can get to a little bit, little bit crazy.
so he's still playing
Um,
Shaman. Maybe we were blind when we were watching earlier. I guess. Maybe we saw that wrong. I don't know. Anyway, it's going to be the Lock coming out from MagicWind here on the bottom. DouyuTV's MagicWind. On the top is going to be Vici Gaming's Pegy with the mid-range druid.
all right, yeah. So Peggy is running a mage. We'll get a chance to see that later on, hopefully. Depends on how well his decks go. And as far as this goes, it's not too often that you see a sacrificial pact in a warlock deck, unless D2 you're running Fell Steeds.
Or Dink, or
Thanks,
not Dink Steeds. That's the nickname. Dread Steeds. Dread Steeds.
Dreadsteeds. Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
Big fan. I was like, no, it's yeah. I mean, that's how little play the card sees. But I can't really think of any other reason that you would run, like, deliberately run a sacrificial pact in your deck.
You very occasionally see it.
It's against your axis and stuff like that. That's
Well,
the dream.
I mean, you can use Implosion, and then if you're in a lot of trouble, you can just heal yourself back up. But a lot of times you're in trouble because you have a sacrificial pack in your hand. So
Right.
the,
I mean,
that's
to be
kind of
fair, you're
awkward.
also going to get imps off of your imp gang boss and things like that. This is probably Reno lock.
Right.
My dream was for the Dread Steed out there, but I guess you can't
I
always
mean,
get what you want,
it
D2.
could still be a thing, or it could still have the Dreadsteed in the deck. You very, very occasionally see Dreadsteed Arena Lock, but again, not too common. It could. It's basically it's anyone's guess right now. Keep in mind that MagicWind is basically a streamer. His last big finish was a while ago, um, and so maybe he's just getting a little bit creative here with his choices. Big Game Hunter comes into the hand, which means that actually the Thorson, if MagicWind leaves that Thorson alive, or leaves both guys alive, I should say, the Master Swordsmith and the Thorson, then he can actually just BGH it next turn. But I doubt that's going to be the case, as we see the heal bot come in hand. So going to be Demon Wrath and kill off this guy. And let's see if Pegy goes for the Dr. Boom, because we see the BJ's in hand right now.
All right, well, yeah, no, not gonna go for it. I mean, Doctor Boom, like, I feel like that's a. I'm not sure if you need to like bait out your opponent's BGH. I'm not sure how many minions he runs that could, bait out that
Typic
BGH.
Typically, it's only the one in Druid.
Right.
The thing about, I mean, some other decks, like, maybe Control Warrior, for instance, or even, this Reno Lock, you do have multiple minions that, are BGHable. Um, but for Druid, basically, the Boombots are such a huge threat with Savage Roar as well, so even if he gets BGH, your opponent's kind of scared of, and it forces them to kill the Boombots. So it's really potent that way. But yeah, I mean, there's really no way around it. What you can do is just play other minions first, like this Ancient Lore, and make it so that once this guy comes in the field, doesn't feel as bad. But yeah, BG8 is most likely going to be played. What else we're going to see here from MagicWind? It'll be up to him, obviously. We could see a Fugan, though that kind of just dies to the board pretty easily. We could also just see a Siphon Soul on this Ancient of Lore if MagicWind isn't suspecting Ancient of War later on.
Yeah, I don't know. How much do you really
I
hate
guess
Ancient of Floors?
I guess you can't play both right now, both the BJs and the Siphon Soul.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much locked into BGHing right here. I mean, you're never going to get more value off of that. It's just about the timing. He's going to tap first, and he does get a Dark Bomb off of that. Unfortunately, it's still not enough to kill off the Ancient of War. You imagine if he taps into what is it, Dark Bolts? What is it?
Shadow Bolt?
Shadow Bolt. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, that card, I mean, some people ran that card in Reno, but they realized that it's still not very good.
Yeah, it's pretty bad unless you really need to deal that 4 damage, like in situations like that. Just saying, it's it's there, it's available, it's waiting for you.
Right, well, now we can sacrificial packs and Imp. So there's that. But Yeah, a lot of pressure being put on here by Pegy. In fact, if Pegy picks up Savage Roar, he will be able to double combo, which obviously is 22 damage from hand, and a lot more when there's minions on board. In fact, just with the Ancient of Lore on board, that would be over 30. So MagicWind gonna have to make something happen here. It's pretty daunting to look at a druid with 7, soon to be 8 cards in hand, and yeah, this is just a sticky situation. Going to reach for that implosion, and I feel like he needs to. I think he has a sacrificial pact, or else he's in a lot of trouble potentially. Currently, we have 21 exactly damage on the field for Pegy if he does go for combo. Actually, 22 if you consider hero
Oh, wow.
power, and then
Risky play there, going for the implosion. If he had hit a 2, he'd actually just die.
looks like we're a bit off sync. I do have the
Okay,
screenshot.
yeah, let me go make
I
sure that I'm
think this is lethal, by the way. And actually, no. Okay, now that there's double Savage Roar, I mean, there was a possibility for combo plus Innervate into Swipe, but now that there's double combo, this is 1,000% lethal. Going to be, let's see, 22 plus 5 is 27 damage coming here. Not too bad. Easy peasy. So I guess they win there. Does Pegy, and he goes up 1 game to 0.
But all right, that's one game, one way to do it. Pegy, of course, on Vici Gaming. Vici had a few struggles this season in the Hearthstone Team Story Cup. That was where, if you've ever seen Pegy, you've probably seen him play there for Vici Gaming. Vici, I believe, at one point was the team in the lowest in the standings in Team Story, but then managed to sort of claw their way back up. And of course, Pegy, we've seen him do a lot of casting, we've seen him do a lot of playing, and picking up that win there. Not really extremely surprising because he does play for a professional competitive team and he gets all that practice. But as far as streamers go, I always like to see kind of the underdog come back a little bit there.
You just love MagicWind. Let's face it.
I'm a pretty big fan, pretty big fan, yeah. But he is substantially the underdog, pretty much no matter what tournament he plays in, because he is more of a popular Hearthstone streamer in China. But it's still pretty interesting to see where he places.
Right, and I mean, all the streamers were placed in different groups, and for instance, we have Chutu, who is actually casting right now, so we see how that went for him. So, yeah, in fact, it's going to be the Shaman, by the way. It's not going to be the Mage for MagicWind, so it looks like there was the first graphic was an error, and going to be fixing that right now. But yeah, so MagicWind, he was one of the few streamers that actually got out of his group. One of the other ones was Fu Oliver, and there might have been one other, I'm not too sure. But MagicWind going with the Shaman here, and good patience by Pegy, not using something like the backstab plus dagger here. You can utilize that the next turn with the SI7 agent, and actually going to be playing on this Flame Tongue Totem. This is kind of the weaknesses, I would say, of Flame Tongue Totem, because it's so hard to have something stick on the board for you to utilize it that MagicWind, he feels pressure to play it out right now.
Yeah, and you never want to just throw down a flame tongue totem when you think that your opponent might be able to kill it. Now, against a rogue, that's oftentimes the case. Is that it's pretty likely that they'll be able to take it out. And in situations like this, the flame tongue survives, but the tunnel trog, unfortunately, is not so lucky. 4 damage for 2 cards, just straight out of the hand, plus a 3/3 body. Sounds good to me.
Right, and that was actually a really good pickup there by MagicWind, able to get that Argent Horse Rider to take out the SI7 agent. Otherwise, there's going to be an easy kill onto the Flame Tongue Totem. So that could be game changing, to be completely honest, because now Pegy doesn't really have anything to do. You can play out a 2/2 Van Cleef, which is not the greatest, and yeah, so just gonna have to use
And Cleave.
exactly, and just gonna have to use his face, unfortunately, to kill off this Argent Horse Rider. And now a lot of pressure being put onto Pegy here.
Yeah, that turn honestly could have been the deciding moment of this entire matchup, and it feels bad to say that this early on because of course anything can happen. But I mean, with another Tunnel Trog being drawn into hand and being able to dump just so many cards on the field, and a Doom Hammer coming out next turn with no way to kill off weapons in hand for Pegy, and man, MagicWind off to a pretty dreamtastic start. Now, granted, after this next turn, he's not really going to have very many options, but the options that he does have on board right now are ridiculous.
Right, and wow, I'm actually very surprised by this. So Pegy goes for just a re-dagger and a deadly poison. Really, really a greedy play. Wants both charges of that dagger right there. But I think it would have been a better play to just suck it up, make get only one charge out of the dagger, and then make sure you get a 4/4 Van Cleef on the field because you need those minions to start taking out the minions of your opponent. And I suppose he thinks it's Blade Flurry or bust, perhaps.
But even still, like he just dies to the Doom Hammer. So
Yeah, that is true. So yeah, that's gonna be game. This is your Drake can't draw you mana as well. Even a prep and anything won't help. So that's gonna be game. Just gonna pass the turn and let his opponent kill him. Even though Rock Biter coming in the hand of MagicWind. MagicWind wondering how he wants to kill his opponent, and just gonna go for the Rock Biter. So it's gonna tie up the series 1-1, and MagicWind wins with the Shaman.
all right, so MagicWind coming back a little bit now. Granted, Shaman or Aggro Shaman specifically, a deck that when it gets going, it's pretty ridiculous. And you even saw that right there. Just very, very little that you can do once you get that big Argent Horse Rider and powered up with the Flame Tongue Totem. That's kind of all she wrote there. So tying the series up 1-1, Pegy, I still feel like is a little bit more consistent of a player. If you don't get those like big, crazy turns like we saw in that game that gave MagicWind such a huge boost, I feel like Pegy still probably got this. But of course, he gets to decide that. It'll be interesting to see, what he brings out here in this next game. Now that he doesn't have that aggro shaman to go on.
Right, but it definitely don't count MagicWind out yet. I mean, obviously he just took that game, so he's looking decently well so far. But I mean, he did get out of the group of excuse me, with Immortal YLD and Ray Allen in it. So definitely still has the opportunity to win here. Going to be the Reno luck of MagicWind versus the Rogue of Pegy here, and Reno right in the hand. We're gonna be rich.
Yeah, we're gonna be rich. I certainly hope that. I mean, it always feels good to have that when you're playing second, because then you get the coins. You're already starting with some extra money. I'm sure Reno feels pretty good about that. I'm still not totally sold on that sacrificial pact, but hey, maybe we'll see it work out this time.
Right. I mean, if there's one deck that it could work out against, it might be the Rogue. Just because you need that one turn where, you basically tempo your opponent out, or you use a lot of tempo. And the thing is, sometimes against Rogue, you have to decide between healing yourself or clearing the board. And with Sacrificial Pact, maybe you can do both, so that could help him. By the way, we see MagicWind holding off on that Ooze. Typically against Rogue, you don't really get the opportunity to kill something like a Deadly Poison or Tinkered Up, Blade, because usually you see the Blade Flurry right away. But by doing this, doesn't allow his opponent to get too much value off of the SI, and also it makes his Twilight Drake a bit bigger coming up here. So reasonable play by MagicWind, and yeah, we're gonna see that Twilight Drake hit the field 4/7 onto the board, and we'll see how Pegy can deal with this.
Right. So this time around, it's kind of the opposite situation that we had from the last game. It's Pegy who's in the position to have a great situation on the board until one day, oh, that changed. So do you really go for the sap here? Is the question. It feels so much better to develop the board with a Violet Teacher, and that's exactly what he is going to go for. And of course, what are we going to get off of this? Oh, not a whole lot.
Well,
the Reliquary Seeker Dream.
The Stone Tusk board does take care of the Violet Teacher, which is something. It's you'd rather have something like an Abusive Sergeant, obviously, but I mean the Stone Tusk board, it can be pretty useful here. And yeah, just go for it. I imagine he just plays it out right now. This Violet Teacher can get a bit sticky in the future. But he's hovering over that tap and actually going to tap, which I'm pretty surprised by. Perhaps, he's saving up to be able to Shadow Flame in the future if, there's too many 1/1s in the field and if Pegy overextends. But, yeah, going to be just this Deadly Poison, probably SI7 Agent as well, and can just take out this Twilight Drake here. And let's see if there's going to be kill on the Dark Peddler or just hitting the face here. If you leave stuff on the board, it can get, something like Power Overwhelming and Shadow Flame, though that's not too common. But yeah, hitting the face is pretty relevant against Reno.
Yeah, so Demon Fire doesn't really do a whole lot. And now we're gonna see some Stalag Fugue in action going on, and maybe even some Thaddeus later on. That's the dream. Number of Thaddeus's I've seen in competitive professional play is like two. So, and usually it's really only ever from this deck. I remember when they first came out with the Stalag and Fugan, everybody was trying to make it fit in their decks, and it just wasn't working out. You saw it like in Faceless Manipulator decks where you get two
Wow.
Thaddeus's, and you're like, what? But this is a pretty cool turn
I'm
for Pegy.
I'm pretty surprised he actually went for the Blade Flurry there. You're not really clearing that much. I mean, the Dark Peddler on the field doesn't really uh, do anything, but yeah, Fugan does get cleared off, leaves the Vile Teacher on the field, and MagicWind is down to 14 health, but I don't know if he's too concerned. Something like he's facing down, excuse me, 5 damage on the board, so uh, you know, like Eviscerates and Tinkers would kill him potentially, but I don't know how worried MagicWind is here.
Yeah, I mean, for Magic Wind, I guess the only thing that he has to worry about is, dying next turn immediately. He doesn't have a Reno Jackson in his hand. Well, he does have a Reno Jackson in his hand, but it kind of feels bad to play it um, when you're still going to take a ton of damage next turn on board.
Right. He could go for the Lothab. Lothab would pretty much keep him pretty safe here, and also would lock out that sprint that we see in hand right now.
Right.
But looks like it's going to be the Molten Giant and something. Perhaps could be
Stone Tusk board to counter the Adept.
the Apprentice there.
Apprentice. There we go.
Well,
He's not
Sap.
Adept yet. He's got to train a little bit.
Well, Sap doesn't do really anything here, unfortunately, because he's Sap. That means you can't even hit the face, so you're not really getting any tempo anyway. I mean, you could Sap and play this heal bot, but I mean, yeah, Pegy is basically doing his opponent favors if he hits the face here. We'll see if he
Hmm.
does go for it. And
I
yeah, it
mean,
does go for a hit in the face, and that's going to be pretty painful. And there's a sacrificial pact, but I mean, I guess you just Reno here.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't. You don't get much better than this. The other option is to. Well, I guess you play your free Molten Giant first, and then Reno it up.
I mean, if you were really greedy, he could go for Demon Wrath, Dark Bomb, um, Stone Tusk Boar Giant, and you actually probably wouldn't die because your opponent has to do 10 damage from hand.
Yeah, that's actually. It always feels better to save Reno for as late as possible, so that you take as much damage without dying. It's yeah, like you said it correctly, D2. That would be pretty greedy, but
Yeah, the one thing here is that even though you're taking more damage to the face after your Reno here, you are establishing a bigger board than your opponent, which is important.
so yeah,
And
just waiting on the decision-making process. The easy decision is just to go
whoa,
for. Oh my god! Oh no!
oh,
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Talking about greedy, man. That is full-on greed. 20 health heal is still a 20 health heal. Like, come on. That's pretty ridiculous.
the one good thing
So
here for Peggy though is he gets to just sap away this Molten Giant, which is not going to be useful for a long time now. And still, Peggy in kind of a bad shape. He has that sprint to refill, but I mean, Shadow Flame just kind of helps clear out this board. Looks like it's gonna be these apprentices just uh, jumping in to kill Reno Jackson here. And yeah, let's see what MagicWind can get done. He's still only on 8 men. It feels like this game has gone on for a long time, um, but could we see a Shadow Flame off of this
hmm.
Ooze, perhaps, and a Dark Bomb? I mean, we could see a Demon Wrath and a Dark Bomb, but then you'd have to use the Stone Tusk Board to kill off the Shredder. But no, let's
All
go for the
right.
Dark Bomb first. Trog is actually not too bad, because anytime you use spells, it just gets bigger. And just going to be a
Right.
Lothar hitting the field, which will lock
Okay.
out the
So
sprint.
yeah, that Lotheb is actually pretty big, and not in the way that Lotheb is usually, because for the most part, you use Lotheb to lock out your opponent from killing off your big board that you've built up. But this time around, it actually locked out card draw, which keeps that hand size very, very limited. No, it was a essentially useless turn for Pegy. But as you can see in hand, a lot of cards about to come out for Pegy. We'll see how this goes. We've already seen Reno drop, so we already have like the Reno out of the
Ooh.
Reno lock. So still have to win the game.
Yeah, and MagicWind had a lot of situational cards, but now he's picked up Thorson, which is really good for him, and then, yeah, he's just going to play this on the field. I think MagicWind could have played this Ooze out a long time ago. I did think he's being a bit greedy with it. Now that we're getting pretty deep into the game, I feel like Peggy's never going to have, a Tinker's Up dagger just sitting there. He's just going to probably, use the Blade Flurry as soon as he can. But,
Yeah, better to at least get some value out of that while you can, instead of having to wait to play it too late. Um, Pretty lucky draw there on the backstab, so that you can clear out that Emperor. Emperor getting dethroned a little bit there, but I mean, still neither player with a really big board. The only problem is that you can't really leave tokens up on the board for Rogue because they're just gonna get oiled and kill you.
Alex Strawza comes in the hand of MagicWind. That's something you don't
Wow.
really see too often in Reno Lock. I mean,
Yeah, Alex
occasionally.
Strazza. When you put Alex Strazza into a Warlock deck, it actually just instantly turns into Jiraxis because that's essentially what it is. Like, hey, what if I just Alex Strazza myself and turned into something super cool? I guess you can use it aggressively, but I mean that's
Right,
not really the way that Reno Lock traditionally wins. I mean, if you want to win like that, then you just run the OTK Reno
exactly.
Lock.
Right, and I would be very surprised if he ran this instead of Jiraxis. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be too surprised because it's hard to fit both of them in the deck, but still, it just seems like Jiraxis wins you control matchups, whereas Alex Strazza doesn't. So, yeah, look, but this game is kind of going back and forth now, and it was looking good for MagicWind for a while, being able to stay alive, but everything in his hand is so situational, whereas, the Rogue is just so much power and has so much going for it. We'll see what Peggy goes for here. I do like, playing out this Lotheb instead of going for a second Azure Drake just to help out onto this board. By the way, that's the second heal bot in the hand of Peggy, so very anti-aggro Rogue being run here.
All right. Well, for we've seen a lot of anti-aggro rogues. So you've got Healbots, and I think we earlier on we even saw Healbot and Sludge Belcher in the same deck. So a lot of rogues kind of worried about. And to be fair, I mean, with as much aggro shaman out there, you don't really have to guess what version of shaman it is. So if you see that your opponent's running shaman, you automatically just like don't ban it because you know some of your decks are teched against that early aggro.
Right, and by the way, I do like this ooze here. That was a dead giveaway from Peggy that he was setting up a lot of damage by playing that Lotheb, and he didn't attack his dagger into one of these imps. So he wanted to keep his dagger equipped so that he could, you know, essentially get a huge dagger off with the Tinker's next turn. Has the prep in hand. You can see that there's a chance he gets the second Tinkers for a lot of damage, but now with his heal by hitting the field, I doubt that he has enough damage no matter what. And I just want to see this Ooze in the field. I mean, just get rid of that dagger, man, and make him use 2 mana, but looks like it's not going to be the case.
Yeah, I always feels kind of bad to make the decision to kill off your opponent's dagger when it's just a 1/2 and there's plenty of mana left next turn. But as we are about to find out, there is still a lot of threat here from Peggy. He's going to hit the face and get that big Blade Flurry combo off. Plus, well, I guess that does mean he has to deal with
Daddy.
Thaddeus, though, right?
Yeah, exactly, and he has no saps left. And just going to go for this play and eviscerate the face. Peggy is absolutely all in here.
And oh
Unfortunately,
my gosh, you taunt Thaddeus? Like, what do you do against that with no more saps in deck?
exactly. So yeah, there's a BGH. There's
Oh
nothing
my
with
god,
Sacrificial Pact.
this is going to
Um,
be the most ridiculous taunt wall.
but do you
You can also play Alex Straza.
yeah, do you Alex Strauss yourself? Because you just saw a ton of damage, and you might maybe die to something like, eviscerate SI or something like that. I'm not sure how much of the damage we've seen. But without healing here, it's kind of dangerous.
I mean, you can also just drop the Shadow Flame here and kill off the board that way. Although it does feel bad to deny yourself the opportunity to play a BGH in a matchup where you usually wouldn't have any other reason to.
Have we seen both? Okay, looks like okay. We're gonna see the Shadow Flame just to kill a guy off and not waste 12 damage. But have we seen both eviscerates? That could be some sort of an out here. Ooh, Blood Might Staleness in hand, so an eviscerate would be lethal. Again, not really sure if we've seen it yet, but it's just gonna be the heal bot, and that's way more than 17 damage on the field. So that's gonna
Yeah. Sorry, Healbot. You're gonna have to do a little bit more work than that.
maybe a brand heal bot, but typically not really seen in the rogue deck, unless you're playing Mill Rogue, but that wasn't the case. But MagicWind takes game number 3. He's up 2 games to 1.
All right, yeah. You said game number 3. I was like, wait, is that 3 games in a row? It's getting my hopes up. Really big fan, but at the same time, Pegy had a pretty solid win in game 1, but now he's actually down a game in this series, MagicWind on match point, and it's going to be his Paladin versus either Mage or Rogue, and I was actually really excited to see Peggy's Rogue deck, or Peggy's Mage deck, because we haven't actually seen Mage yet today, but might not get an opportunity to see it if he opts to go for Rogue a second time into this Paladin.
Right. I imagine he'll probably go for the Rogue first and then the Paladin. By the way, I think I'm going completely insane because I have Warrior written down here for some reason. Maybe it didn't show Mage for MagicWind earlier. I'm just crazy. But so MagicWind gonna have to find a win with his Paladin, and as we can see on the screen, he has to face off against Mage and Rogue. So actually it looks like it's going to be the Freeze Mage for Pegy first. So actually 2 good matchups against this Secret Paladin.
Yeah, okay, so Freeze Mage is a great way to go here. Although to be fair, the only real weakness for Freeze Mage is the early game, and Secret Paladin can put out some pretty insane starts.
Right, and yeah, and we do see a pretty insane start in the hand of MagicWind right now.
Is that a 2-drop into a 3-drop into a 4-drop into a turn 5 Mysterious Challenger? That's,
Pretty
wow.
standard, right? Just standard stuff here.
Yeah, and immediately following, he's got Doctor Boom. We know turn 7's coming up, so I'm glad that he has that.
Well, Pegy has pretty good hand too. I mean, a lot of times, like the hand from hell for a Freeze Mage is all burn at the beginning and nothing to do at all. But I mean, it's got Mad Scientist, got Acolyte of Pain to contest the board here. It has Arcane Intellect if he needs to find answers later, and has that Loot Hoarder. Things looking pretty good for Pegy. So yeah, anything you can do, I can do better, right? As far as early starts.
This is just absolutely ridiculous. Now, it feels kind of bad to play the muster for battle because you know that there's a ton of different ways to deal with, or there's a lot of opportunities for your opponent to draw cards off that Acolyte. Plus, you're going to sacrifice a Divine Shield here too. Like that's still a lot of value there from that Acolyte.
Right. I'm wondering. I'm actually curious as to why he did that. I suppose he's a bit afraid of a ping on the Divine Shield, but I feel like that Acolyte was gonna, attack it anyway. Now let's see where this Avenge goes. If it goes on a 1/1, then it can be killed by ping plus Mad Scientist, but not going to be the case. It's gonna hit that shielded mini bot, and Peggy's gonna have to just settle for killing the rest of the 1/1s in the field. But no real follow up for MagicWind. Unfortunately, if he plays his Keeper of Alderman, he just makes his guy smaller. And doesn't want to play Lotha quite yet. That's a really important card for later. And
Feels bad to kill either one of these Death Rattles because you're just really helping your opponent out, but wants to make sure that there's not the ability to kill that 5/4 on board. So I guess that was the smart decision.
yeah, exactly. It was correct, by the way, to kill the Loot Hoarder and not the Mad Scientist. Obviously, you're giving your opponent card, which is not the greatest, but you want them to draw the cards first before they draw the secrets, because they might draw a secret, and then that would kind of nullify the Mad Scientist. So that's basically the reason why you do that. And Pegy once again checks for the Noble Sacrifice, realizing it's not going to be the case. The unfortunate thing for MagicWind here is that both Avenges have been pulled, so he can't pull that obviously with the Mysterious Challenger, which will likely see this coming turn. Ooh, Ragnaros. That is, wow. Ragnaros might single-handedly turn this from an unfavored matchup to a favored matchup, actually.
Yeah, and to talk about the reasoning behind that is that a lot of times Secret Paladin kind of runs out of minions. Like they play one big minion for each one of those mana curves. So you play one 7-drop, one 8-drop, and adding a little bit more back end to this Secret Paladin actually could work out really well, like you were saying, D2, to just give him the ability to have a minion that doesn't care if it gets frozen or not.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big thing. I mean, Rag, basically, Freeze Mage's worst enemies are in the hand of MagicWind right now. Dr. Boom, Loatheb, and Rag. For, pretty obvious reasons. The Boom bots are a real nuisance, and obviously the body of Dr. Boom is really annoying. Loatheb just shuts you down, and you can't do anything. And Rag, you can't freeze him because he hits you in the face anyway. So, yeah, honestly, even with this massive hand from Pegy and a really good start from him, this is anyone's game.
Yeah, actually kind of ridiculous to see how close this is. I mean, even in
Ooh.
matchups like this, but yeah, that's a big effort.
Very greedy here from Pegy. Actually, there's going to be competitive spirit coming down. How much damage do we have? It's going to be 7 plus 6, 11, 12, 13, 14. If there's a Blessing of Kings, this game is over. Oh wait, he has an
Well,
attack. He has an attack with his Mad Scientist. Excuse me. But wait, hold on. If there's a ice barrier coming out, and I mean, this board's gonna get bigger because of this noble sacrifice. There could still be a lethal here if there's a nice barrier pulled. I think it's a lot of
wow.
damage.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous. So if that's an ice block, then of course you're safe. But still, question now. Of course, they translated that secret, so they know what it's like. But that's still a pretty mental Emperor Thorison, and just trying to look at the damage on board. Holy, that is pretty significant. D2. What is that? 21?
It's a lot. We do see now that it's ice block though, and not ice barrier. I'm actually a bit surprised that Magic when attacked in with this noble sacrifice first. I mean, yeah, there could be vaporize, but you kind of want that to kill the Thorson. You don't really want to use your face in case your opponent has a crazy burst hand. You don't. I mean, if you go down to 18, it's perfectly within the freeze mage ability to just kill you. So yeah, gonna have to probably just toss away this 5/4. Pretty unfortunate, but you still have a pretty big board, and you can just play out Loatheb. Um, I don't really like using your face to kill Thorson. I mean, you have a
Yeah,
huge board.
and at the same time, I mean, popping ice blocks is actually really, really good because it sort of puts your opponent on a timer. But considering that he's probably has enough options to survive until like turn 9 for Alex Straza anyway, I mean, we know that's not in hand, but dropping the Lotheb is the big nail in the coffin here, even though it does still allow for
Oh,
secrets to be played. And of course, a
oh,
perfect free spell there, but
wow! He went for Frost Nova instead of Ice Block. Okay, well now there's no lethal yet because Rat can't hit the field. Doctor Boom, you can't make your boom bots go off.
well, you
Um,
can play it, but you'd only get one boom bot.
right. But I mean, but you can't kill your opponent right now is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Really risky play though by Pegy. Any weapon would have been lethal there for Magic Wind. And how much damage do we see for Pegy? By the way, looks like it's just 10. So no lethal coming out. If there's a blizzard, we might see a blizzard plus an ice block, I believe.
Hmm. I mean, Blizzard is pretty much guaranteed, just because you need to be able to keep your opponent's big board from attacking. This is why the Freeze Mage exists, because you don't really care what your opponent does. And now, even if he did draw into a weapon, it still wouldn't work. He would have to draw some sort of like charge minion.
Well,
But
or
I
rag,
mean, yeah,
or
I was say
rag.
or Rag.
So Pegy is probably not too happy about that. However, can he draw into lethal here? I don't think so. But is Pegy just dead?
Well, he doesn't have any options this turn. He can Flame Strike, but even that doesn't get him out of dodge. So, I mean, you can Fireball your secret,
No, these
your
it would
Mad
pull
Scientist.
it would pull a ice barrier because he's already used both ice
Yeah,
blocks.
And he already
So
has an ice barrier in his hands. So, I mean, you can ice barrier, you can frostbolt to freeze something on board.
I mean,
Uh,
he doesn't have enough mana to Flame Strike plus Fireball.
right. And I mean, Flame Strike kills off, takes care of the most damage,
But it
right? So,
doesn't kill the Mysterious Challenger either. So
so I think you just free.
oh, you
Yeah.
have to
So,
Frostbolt for one and then play a minion so that Rag might hit the minion. That's how you potentially live here. That's the only way, I think.
oh my god, this is insane. All right, well, there's the minion that he wants it to hit to draw more cards. He's already been through both ice blocks too, which is the crazy part. And so there's
Huh.
not a whole lot here.
So, is there a way for MagicWind to win this right now?
No, he doesn't have any charge. So I guess you just play Tyrion and go.
Right.
50-50 shot. All right. Here we go. Who's got esports on their side? It's
Acolyte of
Pegy.
Pain says, "Get down, Peggy, get
Yeah, man.
down. I'll take the hit for you."
I didn't even know
Um,
mages had noble sacrifice D2.
no.
It's even better because it's allows him to draw a card.
Well, it's still looking really bad for Peggy. I don't know how he gets out of this one. He has to at least freeze the board, but he's playing Antonitis right now.
No, I don't know about that. The great thing about Rag is that it doesn't pop ice block or ice barrier either. Um, so he can't even play that to stay alive.
Right. Well, he could fireball the Urag and then play Ice Barrier then, and then that would keep him alive on board, assuming there's no consecration picked up.
I feel like still the only way he survives is to play Loot Hoarder and hope to tank the Rag shot. But okay, so he can freeze Antonitis.
Or
Yeah,
he can freeze Tyrion, I guess.
Tyrion. Yeah,
I
Tyrion.
mean, the thing is, Peggy doesn't have any more damage. I don't know who he's gonna win. He has to somehow survive, and then Antonitis has to go completely nuts for him to have enough damage to kill his opponent.
Peggy even buffed the Secret Keeper by playing a secret of his own, which is pretty crazy. And especially with Doctor Boom coming down, like you might even just die on your own turn by accidentally killing the Boom bots. So
I do like playing this True Silver, by the way. I mean, really, the only way you're gonna die, even though you're kind of healing your opponent a bit, the only way you're gonna die is if your opponent just like burns you out. So I like just healing up a bit here.
right, and with double divine shielded taunts on the field, like nobody likes to look at that. Now, theoretically, if there was a freeze into Doomsayer, that would be pretty darn sick. And I mean, he does draw into one. Unfortunately, it's not really the one he was looking for.
And
But it's still good.
he has to freeze the face too. That's the problem, because obviously there's a True Silver equipped.
All right.
I think this is finally it for Peggy. I mean, he survived the last few turns, but I think this is finally it. I don't see how he gets out of this one. He has no card draw. He can't freeze the board and the face here. He looks like he's gonna kill his own mad scientist with a fireball, which means he only has 4 mana left. So, oh wait, that does pull Ice Barrier. So maybe he's still alive. Okay, he is still alive actually. Maybe this Blessing of Kings.
Well, the
Wait,
problem is,
you can
like,
hold him on plus Blessing and turn this into 7 attack, and 7 plus 4 is 11, and his opponent's at 11. I think that's lethal.
oh my God, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think
That's actually ridiculous. Yeah, lethal through the ice barrier.
that's Magic Wind says, "Please die, please finally die," and Peggy
Well
goes down.
played, man. Magic Wind coming through in the end. Big congratulations to him. I mean, keep in mind this is a popular Hearthstone streamer in China who still, I mean, nothing to take any of his talent away from him. Is just beat one of the better players on Vici Gaming, a team that's been competing in Hearthstone. I think it was the first team, first like big esports organization in China to pick up Hearthstone team. Way back in the day, and Peggy is out of here, and Magic Wind will advance to the round of 8.